Welcome to Media Snack, episode 100. You can see behind me we've borrowed some balloons from our fellow YouTuber Casey Neistat. I think he had 4 million balloons, but we've got 100.
Good.
So we've hit quite a good milestone, 2 years in the making.
That's right. So a lot's gone on in the 100 episodes that we've been filming. Some kind of key critical milestones in media as well.
Yeah.
So not least Mediapalooza when we started in 2015.
That was right. That was right at the beginning, or the end of Mediapalooza was really kind of when we kicked this off, and a lot was going on. A lot of people talking about media. And then the things, some major things have happened. Media's, as we keep saying, has become very high on the corporate agenda, not least because of all the things that we've spoken about at length in the previous 99 episodes. The A&A's Media Transparency Report,
That's right.
and picked up by Marc Pritchard and P&G, turned into an action plan.
That's right. It was ISBA's media framework actually that was launched a couple of years ago.
That's right, the contract.
Yeah.
We've seen a huge change in agencies, particularly agency leadership, and even the birth of new agencies. Hearts and Science came in 2015. We've talked a lot about Wavemaker and the changes at Group M as well this year.
That's right. We've had the creation of a new media role, the Chief Media Officer.
That's right.
Yeah. A lot of advertisers are embracing.
Yeah, indeed. And also in the last 6 months, we've seen maybe a change in fortunes, perhaps. Agency holding company share prices have been a little bit on the decline, a bit challenged. We've seen some success amongst independent agencies. And then there's this kind of lurking threat, which we've discussed about from the consultancies maybe taking over some agency scope. So it's been 2 years of change.
That's right. And we've also had some wonderful guests on the show that have broken up the monotony of just you and I talking.
I think some of the best episodes actually. Some great brands. We've spoken to all the major trade bodies.
Right. The agencies have been on the show.
That's right. And then we've also had some great interviews with some really influential voices from across the industry. So it's been 100, it's been fun, more to come. So to celebrate this milestone, we had a party, the Media Snack 100 party, and we invited lots of people to come. One of the things that was just a kind of recurring part of conversations, not only at the party, but often it just is anyway. People often ask us what's going to happen next year, and that prompted a lot of thinking. And so that's what we've been thinking about.
That's right. So we've been considering the discussions that we had at the party and come up with 3 themes or 3 predictions for 2018.
Yeah, indeed. So number 1 is going to be advertisers thinking more about the operating model for media, primarily inside their own business.
The second theme is going to be the fragmentation of scope based on the requirements of advertisers from their operating model.
Indeed. And the third thing, I think it's going to be a lot more advertisers really grasping some form of action plan. We've talked a lot about Marc Pritchard at P&G and his 5-point action plan. There will be other brands, I think, in 2018 taking similar kind of actions and following suit. Okay, let's look at number 1. So the changing operating model for media. Why is that important?
Yeah, I love this, right? Because it's all about brands bringing more control of media decision making in-house. Yeah. And this is on the back of a brilliant research piece that have come out of the WFA. And they did this massive survey with loads of their members, and it indicates a real shift in responsibility and accountability of media within advertising organizations. Yeah. Okay, exactly. So almost 70% of the brands that were researched actually have a chief media officer or a media leader within their organization. Okay, and they're bringing in specialist support, especially around data technology and programmatic, to support that media leader. And they're creating media forums and centers of excellence that gather data and inform the local markets on how to manage media better. Yeah. So it's a brilliant trend forward.
Yeah, good. So big prediction for next year. It's a really good, WFA are very good at these reports. So this particular report I think was called the Global Internal Media Structures and Organizations. It's available to WFA members, and I think if you're not a member, if you reach out to Matt Green or one of the team there, you might be able to get your hands on it. It's really worth a read because it gives, it's a great insight firstly on the progress that's been made. That's one of the big takeouts I saw reading that, was the amount of media capability already being built in particularly these global organizations. And secondly, the intention and the ambition for the future, which is why it's our kind of number 1 prediction for 2018.
Prediction number 2, greater fragmentation of media scope. What does that mean?
Well, the fragmentation, that doesn't necessarily mean changing kind of agencies or anything like that. This is in some ways related to the changing operating model. Yeah. We've talked a bit about the fragmentation of scope, and what we mean by that is really advertisers, laying out the communications process and seeing all the different stages, and then making some decisions about which bits they want to control. And really, they want to exert some more control over the whole thing instead of just delegating a big budget off to an external big agency with a contract and with trust and responsibility. They actually just want to see how it works. Yeah. So there's a lot more interest in understanding. So when we talk about fragmentation of scope, that just means look at the end-to-end process from data and analytics and insight, strategy, then planning or campaign planning and buying. You might start to think about what role then programmatic plays, whether you use search or affiliate companies, all these kind of different resources where content becomes integrated into that planning. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot more thinking, certainly that we've seen, just trying to really, of advertisers trying to understand that process, and then thinking actually what's the right external resource to help us succeed with that model, and which bits should we legitimately do ourselves. Absolutely. Which may be more of the upfront kind of data, insight and strategy part, perhaps is going more in-house.
And it's to me, it's a real indication that the narrative is changing in media away from price to value, understanding the value that media can bring to your business.
Exactly. And that's coming out of, again, in our experience, our exposure, greater insight coming from the use of data inside advertiser organizations. And there's been lots of talk as well of this in this last year about advertisers in-housing media capabilities. We don't think that means taking over media buying necessarily, which is the kind of really executional end. The in-housing is going to be much more around kind of data management and analytics and insight and defining strategy. Absolutely. Which largely they've been delegating away or outsourcing. We're going to see next year much more advertisers, many more take control of that part of the process. And our third prediction is going to be advertisers looking to reduce wastage, get greater transparency, and clean up the digital supply chain.
That's right. So it's been 18 months since the now infamous A&A transparency report.
Yeah, which amazingly still only half of the members seem to have read, but maybe that's now catching fire and some good stuff's going to happen.
And 12 months since Marc Pritchard of P&G stood up and laid out his manifesto and his action plan in terms of dealing with what he called the murky digital supply chain.
Yeah, indeed. So if you remember, Marc stood up in January and gave the industry, or the digital supply chain particularly, a year to clean up its act and come to meet P&G's 5-stage action plan. Right. He was interviewed recently, which we talked about, to say there are only kind of 40 odd days I think left of the year. He was confident that the industry was going to meet the requirements. But that's P&G. That's starting right from the top. We're now seeing that that's trickling down, and our prediction is next year more and more advertisers are going to either issue their own kind of simple action plan and requirements of the industry, or they will follow in P&G's wake, if you like, and use that as the opportunity to make improvements for their own business.
Right. And it's going to benefit the industry on a whole.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so those are our predictions for next year. I guess the next 50 episodes will be following some of those a bit more closely.
And we'll leave you with some images of our Media Snack 100 party.
Cheers. Oh yeah, okay.
What's the matter?
That's fine. And I'll carry on, right?
Yeah. We're rehearsing, right?
No.
This was it.
Are you rolling?
It doesn't get any better than this.
This is it. Don't hope that this is going to get any better than this.
That's your movie snacks for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week.
Where is it?
See you next week. That's your media snack for this week. Thank you very much for watching.
See you next week.